We
That
all
would be
set for
great.
standing, salute the flag? It is 7:12. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
The republic
stands,
for which stands,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
liberty
all.
and justice
We
for all.
remain standing for a moment of silence for all the emergency service workers that we've lost since our last time we were together. Thank you. Chairman's report. Commissioner Brennan?
I wanted, once Alex gets on, I want to do the, diversity and equity. We're sorry it's been delayed, but we were going through legal and HR. And now have it to bring back to the committee from our discussion in, August, and want to move that forward. Beyond that, I don't have anything else to report.
Okay, thank you. Number 5 on the agenda is old business, which is the diversity and equity, phase 1.
Right.
Can I get a motion to move that to, after number 8, please? So moved. Motion made and seconded.
Okay, we'd like to do it as soon as Alex is on, because we may lose him, we may lose me, so I don't know how you want to handle that from the agenda point of view.
It's not gonna be that far down the line. The only one we're gonna have to shut down a little bit is the chief. We'll have to move his stuff around. So.
I'm flexible.
Okay, go for it.
The motion's been made and seconded to move it down the line. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of minutes, special meeting, September 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Regular meeting of September 9th, 2021. Can you get a motion to accept the minutes? Motion.
I made, so
Motion
moved.
made. Seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got one abstention. Okay, Chief's monthly report.
I'm sorry. I can't see you, so I don't know who's abstaining unless you name.
Bill Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. And who made the motion?
I'm sorry, Jude.
Thank you.
Who made the motion?
All right.
Dorothea made the motion.
Rob seconded.
Seconded.
Rob.
Cinto. Thank you.
You got it. You good, Jude?
All good. Thank you.
Okay. Chief's monthly report.
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, this month is Fire Prevention Month. Our fire prevention staff has been pushing out messages on social media. We will have a change your clocks, change your batteries campaign at the end of the month for daylight savings time, beginning in the first Saturday in November. And we are in the process of doing the annual smoke detector replacement, smoke detector battery replacement program, which we reach hundreds of seniors over the course of the month. And fire companies around the town are engaged in that and are assigned locations to go visit. These are requests that are submitted by families. Hey, I would like someone to come out and check my smoke detector. I know that it's come up in previous meetings about, you know, the initiation of the Fairfield Fire Department's focus on smoke detectors, and an ordinance was passed where every home in the community was checked for smoke detectors. What we have sustained over the intervening years, and that was done under Chief Gardner, what we've done over the intervening years is anytime a fire department representative goes into a home for any purpose, even an EMS call, they check the smoke detectors. So there is a constant updating of that process. So, you know, it is not something that was dropped. That, in addition to Fire Prevention Month activities with smoke detector campaign, we are, especially for the seniors, meeting where the greatest need is. The budget, we're working through this year's budget and have just started to anticipate next year's budget, working on the capital forecast, and then ultimately the capital forecast, we have a date in early November to appear before the Board of Finance for that and the Board of Selectmen. So we'll continue to move that those issues forward. As you know, 500,000 of the fire department's priorities on the waterfall will be funded through ARPA, the $24 million that the town is receiving, and that'll go for existing projects on the waterfall, as many of them were. And there's very few departments that got new money for something not projected. Our two projects for $250,000 a year were funded out of the ARPA money. And we currently have the existing funding for 2 years that we've been working on, the bathroom projects. We have struggled with the architect and the interpretation of ADA compliance. We appealed to the local building official and ultimately to the state building official for a modification of the ADA requirements at Station 2 on Jennings Road. There is no ADA compliance there. We're building a brand new bathroom, carving out space from the existing men's bathroom, men's dormitory bathroom, as part of the larger project. So we'll create a female/public access ADA compliant bathroom. The architect was adamant that we had to make the men's bathroom, the firefighter's bathroom, a ADA compliant bathroom. And we said, that doesn't make sense. One, it limits the number of fixtures you can put in the space because of the circulation required by ADA, and it's just impractical. Why would we spend the extra money? We will never hire a handicapped firefighter. The job description precludes that, and even if we did, there would be essentially a unisex ADA compliant bathroom immediately adjacent to that. So back and forth. We were at wit's end with the architect, finally put it up through the state, and the state approved it. So the architect is finishing up the last steps in the plan so we can go out to building permit. We're hoping that we will get bidders. As you know, that there's supply chain issues. The other projects that we have currently funded, hey, Commissioner, the other projects that we currently have funded is for overhead doors and station exhaust. We're moving forward with the station exhaust. We've done Station 1. We'll move on next to Station 2. So we'll get, the parts and pieces are available, and when the contractor has been approved. Overhead doors, we had 0 bidders for essentially a $125,000 project for overhead doors at Station 1, 2, and 5, and controllers at Station 3. And, you know, I guess, you know, I mean, I have to meet with purchasing to look at a strategy, but if we're going to pay a premium for overhead doors and have a very long delivery time and installation, it may be more suitable to just push that project off, put something else in its place, and move forward. And then when we think that we can get a fair value, a fair bid for overhead doors, we'll go forward with that project. But that was something, the bid non-opening just occurred.
So nobody bid on that? Is that what you're saying?
Nobody bid. No bids.
Arbonne, did you guys use Arbonne to bid on? Or did you ask Arbonne to bid?
So I don't know that name. We typically do Crawford overhead, Bob and Ray's, and Ed's overhead doors.
Yeah, Arbonne's been doing our stuff. And yeah, changed by disruption. Like we just built 7,000 square feet. And the last thing you would think that would hold us up was dock levelers, and you actually couldn't get dock levelers. So
yeah. Arbonne, how do you spell it? Is it R-B-O-N?
I'll send the
Yep.
deputy.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah. We'll,
maybe, you know?
yeah. It appears to be an industry-wide issue. It's,
yeah.
You know, I don't know, and we gave the option of steel or aluminum. There was a slight price difference, but no bidders.
What exhaust system did you guys go with? I remember.
Plymouth Vent. Yep. So there was Niederman, Plymouth Vent, and MagnaGrip.
So wait, yeah, one, like a magnet goes right on when you go, and the other one just exhausts out.
So that's air. There is a filtration system. So we looked at the two. It's 3 manufacturers that we looked at for the 100% capture, the hose that with the magnet. The other is a ceiling-mounted scrubber or a filtration, and we felt that we want to do everything that we can to capture 100% of the products of combustion, as opposed to, even though it's NFPA compliant, we weren't confident, given firefighter cancers and the increase in exposures, it just didn't seem to be worth it. And lastly, there are donations. There are 2 smoke detector related donations, one from Barbara Spantana, $50, and Mr. and Mrs. Leminen, for $20. And that is subject to a vote of the commission.
Can I get a motion to approve the donations? And when you make your motions, please state your name for the record.
This is Dorothea. I so move.
I got a first by Commissioner Fitzpatrick and seconded by Commissioner Brennan.
Commissioner Brennan.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Sorry. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Brennan, you want me to keep going?
Yes.
I'll take that as a yes, because you just froze up. Deputy Chief's operation report.
Okay, so some of the major projects we're working on right now, we're working with Westport Fire Department on CAD combination issues, for how we're going to work some of the CAD is computer-aided dispatch. We're going to have a combined CAD system that handles Westport and Fairfield. So we need to kind of make things that we're all talking the same language. And the police departments are doing the same thing. So we're working on that. We're working with a CAD vendor on technical issues related to the new GIA file and all the back-end things in the CAD system. We're working with our new vendor to smooth out some wrinkles in our fit for duty exams. We have a new vendor, and there's some wrinkles, but hopefully it will work out well for this new system. We're looking at dorm configurations to better accommodate privacy, which will kind of dovetail with the new firefighter coming out of the academy in December and a new firefighter going into the academy in February, female firefighters. But we just want to, most of our dorms are just open bedrooms, so we just want to, compartmentalize a little bit, which will give everybody a little bit more privacy. So we're looking to a few different solutions, and we haven't decided, but hopefully we believe we should be able to have something there by the time the first probie gets out of school. Previously, our last female firefighter was a lieutenant, so she had her own dorm, so we didn't have to worry about that. It's been a while since we've had to worry about some of these things, and we just want to make it right for the people, the new people that's coming, so that we can welcome them the right way. We're working at clearing out the High Street facility as we've been directed by the Army, who actually owns it. So we were squatters. We had a lot of equipment there in the garage and outside, so did other agencies. So all of us cooperated with them and moved things out. Hopefully the town will be able to get that property in the future, but right now we don't own it, and we don't have, we no longer have permission to keep things on premises. You'll see more things around the school right now that did come out of there. As the chief said, we're working on the budget for fiscal year 23, and also the waterfall budget, which we're going to have that meeting very soon. And the last thing that we're working on, something else that has to do with the ECC move. We're working on purchasing, and then pretty soon it'll be installation of fire station alerting purchases. So what we've had to do is we've had to upgrade the actual way that the CAD system then talks to all the firehouses, not just ours, but the 4 or so in Westport and the one in New Canaan, that the CAD will alert. And hopefully using new technology and making sure that it's and also NFPA compliant, so that we make sure that there's redundancy in case the message doesn't go through, that the dispatcher is flagged, that the firefighters have not gotten the message that their station is being alerted out. But also some of the better methods where the sound ramps up, so all of a sudden it doesn't give you a heart attack, as some of you who have been in the fire service know. In the middle of the night when the alarm goes off, this piercing thing just jars you and raises your heartbeat and your blood pressure. They have newer ramped ones where it's just a soft thing that just comes up, and it's great. I think it's safe and it's very effective. And also controlling lights and things like that for safety. So turning off lights and turning on lights in areas, and also that's where we are now with some of our major projects.
Any questions from the commissioners? Okay. Next on the agenda, item number 9. And we can now start going a little slower so we can wait for Alex. Southport, Frank, do you have anything?
Frank Chaplinski, Southport Fire Department. I'm back. Our president, Brendan Cassidy, has stepped down due to restrictions with his job. He just didn't have the time. His term was to run until next October or next September, because we stagger the chief and the president so that we don't have a turnover of both at the top. So I have been re-elected as president of the department. This will mark my 20th non-sequential year running the department. So
Congratulations.
I think.
You look younger as a result, you know, it agrees with you.
I shave off all the gray.
It agrees with you.
So I'm starting to go back through the records to figure out what's open, what's happened in the last couple of years. So Joe has my number and the chiefs have my number. So please feel free to reach out and contact me if there's any open items with Southport that I can help to resolve. And I'll be here on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Stratfield, I don't see anybody here, nobody in the call. No correspondence, chiefs?
No.
CERT?
CERT has mentioned that they don't have any report for this month.
CERT has no report for this month. New business?
Joe, I'm prepared to do the report from Alex.
Oh, okay, because what I was going to suggest that we take maybe a 5-minute recess so that the chief can try to get on the phone again, or?
No, because he's not answering text. I know he's in the midst of, there are additional Americans that they may be able to get out this weekend. And so since he's not answering my text, I'm assuming that something's up. He's trying. He is trying. Chief, can you call him on his cell from your speakerphone?
Okay, do you want me to call him on my cell phone first to see if he's available to do that, or?
He just messaged me that he was trying to get in, literally now, as I was telling you that I was going to do it.
Right. On the group thing, he didn't reply for that. He originally did.
No, he messaged me personally.
Let me just see if I can get him then, Alex.
I'll message him that you're going to try to call him.
Hey, Alex, are you able to get in? I sent that last link. It might help, unless you just want to phone in, or are you busy? Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. Thanks. Okay. Okay. He says he's going to try to phone in. He's having an issue right now, so yeah. So we had sent him all the links, and he originally, was on the group text with us, so he was communicating, and then he wasn't answering back, so that's why we were concerned.
So Chief, were you talking to him that he's gonna come in or not?
Yes, he said that he was just trying to get on now. It sounded like maybe he was not, maybe he was busy with something and was going to try to just jump
Okay.
on now. So
Okay.
I don't think it was technical for the last.
Yeah, no, I believe something had happened. That's
Yeah.
what I was starting to say.
Okay.
While he's doing that, I'll do a preamble at least. As you know, we've been working on this, and originally it started as Alex being asked by the town administration to take a look and start to do some research. And then the chief and I got involved, and my desire is that if we're all comfortable, we actually adopt it as a commission report. And we talked about it, but couldn't release the original draft because the town attorney wanted to review it. The changes were useful, but not any major changes to the intent or content. But some corrections, some reorganization, I think it made it better. So that's kind of where we are.
Hey, Alex, is that you?
It is, thank you. So I was able to dial in by phone. I couldn't use the link.
Very good.
So Alex, do you want to pick up and walk us through the report?
I most certainly can. Let me just pull it up here since I'm dialing with my phone. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the report really quickly, if you'll bear with me. I apologize if the background noise is loud. I just tried to get somewhere with service so I could speak to all of you. So the workforce diversity report here is the result of an effort that was undertaken after originally speaking with Selectwoman Lefkowitz when I was going through the confirmation process with the Board of Selectmen that we would examine the issue. And so what we did is we did a comprehensive I've called a study really into the issues surrounding the hiring practices that relates to workforce diversity. So that included interviews not only within our department in Fairfield, but also external departments, as well as reviews of federal and state level policies, and then outreach to other groups such as the International Association of Firefighters and whatnot. And so they're footnoted here where some of the research has come in. So in sum, and we'll go through the document itself just to kind of give everybody an idea, it's very similar to what we previously discussed. The outcome here of the research is pretty clear. We have a process that's in place both for hiring as well as for screening folks for requirements to ensure that they're going to be able to do the job and that everybody's safe, that stood up to federal review from the Justice Department Civil Rights Division as well as multiple lawsuits. So the requirements are not the issue as far as we can tell in terms of barriers for hiring and structural barriers for hiring, showing any form of prejudice against any particular minority group. What we have come to realize through the course of this study, which is actually where the chief had already had a good idea given his experience and we were able to validate it through the research, is that what we're really looking at is a recruiting problem. And what that means is, as you guys know, as you're looking at the hiring process, from a person who starts the process to making it all the way through, they're whittled out for a whole host of reasons. It could be the time, it could be the scores from a written exam, from the oral interview, from the physical exam, for the CPAT. And so what you end up with is a very narrow pool at the end of it. And if you have a very small pool of minority candidates from different minority groups, the chances that someone will make it through that process are slim, just because the sheer numbers of folks that are doing it. So what we realize is we really have a big recruitment problem. And so we've got some recommendations at the end of the document for how to help with recruitment, as well as to help out on certain areas where folks who are of lesser means sort of would have a level playing field going in the process. So the goal here is not to give anybody a leg up, per se, and whittle away or whittle down any of the standards for professionalism, so much as ensuring that there's a level playing field for those who are coming to the table and attempt to be hired. So from a summary standpoint, I just kind of want to open it up before we go through this document. If you, Madam Chair, would like to review section by section. I wasn't sure exactly how you want to do that.
Okay. Commissioners, your preferences?
I would like to review it section by section because of the importance of this, so nothing gets glossed over.
Fine. I think if one of us want it, then we ought to do it. It doesn't matter how many want it. So Alex, can you start to do that?
Yes, I certainly can. So let me just, I'll go through it. So we'll just read through section by section. Does that work?
Yeah, I'd summarize each section. You don't have to actually read it, but kind of just go through it.
Okay, I want to make sure I have your guidance.
Joe, is that okay with you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So summarize section by section what we're doing, or point out any major highlights that you think ought to be thought about, Alex.
Yes, ma'am. Will do. Yep. So for the introduction, we talked about in terms of the background, how this started, right, as a conversation with Selectwoman Lefkowitz, and this is part of a larger effort for the town of Fairfield to take a look at any potential structural barriers to hiring or any aspects of what could be considered racism or prejudice that are inherent in either town code, tax policy, schools, things of that nature. In this case, specifically germane to the fire department, which is why it's within our purview of the fire commission, right? So that's your introduction there. In terms of the background, so we talked about the uniformed workforce. We have, at the moment, thanks to some really hard work on her part, we've just hired another female firefighter. We've had 2 who've retired from the department after 20 years of service, but we haven't hired anybody in a number of years. And as for the current workforce, I think we have 1 career firefighter who has identified as biracial, if I'm not mistaken, based on the research we've done. But other than that, it's largely, a single homogeneous group of white males, more or less, is kind of where we arrived at. So it just speaks overall to where the department is with diversity. And it's not exactly a condemnation of the department by any means, because the chief has done incredible work over the last 6 years or so through efforts that he's made to try to diversify the workforce. And it's not as easy as people think. There's a lot of work that needs to go into that and things that need to happen to get there. And that's some of the things we're going to talk about in this document. So this is really building upon the work that the chief has already done, so much as a new initiative that nobody's looked at yet. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of background and introduction, we passed that with no questions. So I spoke about the executive summary here, right? So uniform standards for hiring and physical written exams. Everything's passed the DOJ review for the Civil Rights Division. And the biggest issues affecting minority applicants right now seem to be those with lesser means or without access to the firefighting community. And what we mean by that, and we'll get into it in a little bit more detail, is helping to prep for written exams, helping to prep for orals and things of that nature. It just tends to be easier for folks who grew up in a firehouse culture. And given the fact that there's not a lot of minority representation or diversity in the workforce to date, that means that those who are looking to join don't necessarily have the same level of access as other people. So that's where you end up with things like mentorship and preparation and things that can help. So that's just at a high level what we're talking about there. So the town can basically expand the applicant base and provide an opportunity for otherwise qualified candidates to help better prepare for testing and other barriers for employment. So again, the goal here is not to lower standards. It's to ensure that people who make the effort and who want to actually get hired, if they need assistance because, they either don't have the connections in the firefighting community, they don't have the means to kind of help prep, that we're going to be able to sort of help them do so to level the playing field against other candidates while maintaining standards. Okay, any questions as I pause there?
Commissioners, any questions?
You can
Go
continue.
ahead.
Was that for me or whoever was just speaking?
That's for you. You can continue.
Go ahead, Alex.
Continue, please. Yeah, thanks. I couldn't hear what the direction was for whoever was just speaking. It was continue. I got it. Okay. So we talked about now, we're in section 4 for issues identified. So recruiting we just talked about, right? So what we're missing is is a broader recruiting, a broader base of candidates from minority communities. And so there's a whole host of recommendations for what we can do there. We've already entered into a testing consortium, which the chief has discussed previously, and I think there were some questions about that the last time. But we're also pooling on the testing, right, to try to increase workforce diversity and make sure we have people from other communities with larger concentrations of minority communities to make sure that we're outreaching to the right number of folks. If you don't reach out to the right number of folks for recruiting purposes, then you're not going to have the right number of folks apply to make it through the process and ensure that we end up with a balanced hiring process. So again, this all really comes down to a numbers game, and that's why this is really the most important piece that's here. Okay, so that's on the recruitment side. In terms of oral examinations, I think I already mentioned the fact that, you know, people who've got connections in the firefighting community have an easier time preparing for the oral exams. That seems to be the research and the general feedback, not only from candidates, but also from firefighters and fire officers that we've spoken to, not only in Fairfield, but in neighboring departments. We did interviews with Bridgeport, New Haven, Stamford, New Rochelle, and the Yonkers Fire Departments, and everybody pretty much had said the same thing as it relates to that. Actually, as it relates to all of these problems, they're not unique to our department. These are things that were faced across the board. So it lets us know that it's a uniform issue that everybody's kind of addressing. Right? So to help prep for the oral exams, right, at that point, we may be able to do something like a mentoring program along those lines, assign somebody to help do prep or do prep classes for oral exams, right? People still need to put in the effort. They still need to show up. They have to answer their questions and go through the process. This is, again, just a means of trying to level the playing field for those who may not have grown up in a firehouse culture, right, who otherwise would be great firefighters, but simply don't have the background. Okay. So right now, if we look at the financial barriers to employment, I think there's still one mistake here that needs to get fixed. Chief, if I'm not mistaken, that should be $160 and not $200, which I believe you replied to the town attorney, correct?
It is. It should be $165. And I'll make a note and I'll make a correction. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We'll get that. Thank you. So
and that
for the
is
financial
the same
barriers,
number. So the first year of testing is $145. The second year or the second 2-year cycle, the fee was $165. The cycle that is set to begin in March of next year for testing will be, again, $165 per candidate.
Excellent. All right, so we talked about the financial pieces that are there, and then with that as well, you also have the transportation back and forth. The testing facilities that are only during the day, Monday through Friday. Usually, there's very few weekend opportunities. So folks really have to take off in the middle of the workday, and they have to get transported back and forth up to Meriden to testing center. And again, I know a lot of folks are looking to say, hey, if you want the job, you got to make the the effort. And so this is really geared towards the people who want to make the effort, and if they have an issue helping to pay for things, right, if that's necessary. And then we look at the CPAT exam, which is next here, right? So that was where this really began as to whether or not this was a structural barrier to entry to the department. And again, what we determined is it is a structural barrier, but not in a negative or prejudicial way. This has stood up to DOJ civil rights review and lawsuits because it's been established as the minimum physical standards required to ensure people are safe and able to operate as firefighters. And so it became a question, do we need to keep that? Do we need to look at other options? And at least the research has told us that that's the case, that we need to ensure that we continue that for right now as our standard. And Chief or Dorothea, if I've spoken out of line, please let me know.
Oh, you're good.
No, you're good.
Okay, so we'll keep going there. CPAT does cost money as well as you talk about it, so those things add up. It really comes down to a matter of preparation as well, right? So then it became a question of, can we do things to help prepare candidates? Do we have the right equipment? Are we certified as a training facility in Fairfield? What can we do to help candidates prepare? And I know this is a unique scenario with multiple people going through the academy at once, or at least for hiring, when we usually have it's like a one-off scenario from what I was told. So I originally entered this with the wrong frame of reference in terms of hiring, thinking there'll be an entire academy class, forgetting that we've only got 110 folks or so, and that these are usually one-on-one hires. But there are opportunities to help people prepare, and that's something we're looking at. So those are really the critical areas we looked at in terms of the hiring process to ensure that we are hitting our minimum standards for safety and job requirements, but ensuring that nothing is added to the process that would either be considered prejudicial or a structural barrier to hiring. And then in doing so, making sure that we were increasing the size of our recruiting efforts and candidate pool to ensure that we end up with positive hiring outcomes for the folks that we're looking to bring on board, which are qualified folks who want to be firefighters and diversify the workforce. So a lot of times these efforts get pitched as an opportunity to lower the standards, to bring people in who otherwise wouldn't be qualified. I disagree with that based on the research that we've done. We have an opportunity to ensure that the standards are enforced but to increase the pool of candidates and make sure they're better prepared for a level playing field, and then the rest of the hiring process will play out as it's supposed to. So in terms of recommendations, right, we talked about, so the IAFF has a series of recommendations that they have put out to folks for recruitment purposes, and then we also have feedback from career firefighters and chief engineers from across multiple departments who have spoken to us. So as we're looking at it, right, recruiting in minority neighborhoods, churches, and community gathering places, gyms and public health, I mean, things that are pretty common sense to everybody. Social service organizations, businesses, or things that are frequented by minority groups. And then Fairfield can also complete the process to become a certified CPAT training facility or gain access to the regional facility for training purposes. We can hold, career firefighter orientation days in partnership with regional departments to try to get people on board. We can do low cost, how to prepare for the oral interview program as well for a series of people who are interested in helping to prepare. And then we can also participate in joint recruiting with other departments in the greater Bridgeport metropolitan area. And the chief has already started to work on a number of these initiatives. So it's not like some of this isn't being done. Some of this has been initiated in parallel with the research because it's within the purview of the department to do without the commission having to ask for any action. And the chief has already been very active in getting this stuff done anyway. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. That our executive management team for the department has not been sitting down waiting for things to happen. They've been actively involved in trying to fix the situation. And then, so the other thing is a low-cost series for how to prepare for the CPAT exam, right? And then we can work with local high school guidance counselors. So those are just some steps that are recommended potentially for things that we can do to help the situation. And so for the next steps we talked about is draft realistic short-term, midterm, and long-term plans to improve recruiting efforts and candidate preparation to level the playing field. And then once that's done, we have to determine the cost of what those efforts would be and make sure that we have the ability to fund them, or if we have to ask for a budgetary appropriation. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Otherwise, that's the summary of the document.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have one, Dorothea.
Go ahead.
Alex, the last sentence of paragraph 2 talks about how data is not available to determine if uniformed members belong or identify with other minority groups, such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, etc. I understand the push on the male-female. I understand the push on ethnicity. Is there an effort being made to have people of different sexual preferences? I'm confused why that sentence is in there at all.
It's an excellent question. So that was just a data point that I inserted in there to try to give some context when I was talking about what data was available. So racial data is available in terms of what race people identify as. I believe that there's the male-female data, but no, for other minority groups like LGBTQ would be considered another minority group. That data is not available. So when I'm writing that, when we wrote the paper, it was more in the context of the information that was available for minority groups who are either employed by the town or have sought employment by the town, particularly for the fire department.
But Alex, you would never have the right to ask that question, would you?
Yes, and I'm not suggesting that we would ask that question. Again, it was literally just a data point to explain what I meant by what data was available and what wasn't.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick, would you be more comfortable if we took that sentence out? It's a research data, but it's not essential, I don't think, Alex, to the report, is it?
No, it was just contextual to let the readers know, what data was looked at and just to kind of contextualize again what is available and what's not. If it's not germane to the paper and the commission would like to remove it, I have no objection to doing so. It was more for explanatory purposes than anything else.
So, if I may, Commissioner?
Yes,
please
go
do,
right
sorry.
ahead.
So the only issue as it relates to that, and it relates to all types of diversity, is the environment within the department. And to ensure that we are conducting ourselves as individuals and professionals in a way that does not create an atmosphere in which any protected class, member of a protected class, would feel threatened or uncomfortable by virtue of their position in that class. So I don't think that the data point is important as much as the overall efforts within the department. Because if we had a culture that was old boy network, then it would be threatening to any protected class, because it's hard to penetrate that environment, and people would be reluctant to join a fire department that had that reputation. So I think that, being cognizant of these issues is important, and I think that we do. As a matter of fact, we have a diversity consultant coming to our staff meeting next Tuesday to start that discussion. But I agree with you that the sentence in this seems to be out of place. I think the larger context is, what is the department doing to make sure that, if someone walks into a firehouse, they may see all white men, but they're not going to hear language or see behavior that would say, I'm never going to work there. So I think those are two very distinct issues, but environment, I think, is an important one. I'm not sure that it's necessary to put in the report, but it is something that is on our mind.
That makes sense, Chief, and I've got no problem striking that sentence for that reason. Again, it was just explanatory, and I think that makes sense. And if it confuses one person who deals with the fire department as a commissioner, it'll confuse other people. So I have no problem removing that.
Good. Okay. Other questions?
I got a question, and I guess it's to the chief, or maybe somebody else that sits on the commission could answer this for me. But those things that the chief was just describing, those are already protected by labor laws. You can't go into any place and start, with different language and stuff. If you're an employer, you can't. Your employees can't be talking about, different things. So, to me, that's a given. That's already covered by labor law. And I don't think it really needs to be spelled out again as far as the recruitment side of what we're trying to do here. I think that's just covered under regular state labor laws and federal labor laws and everything else.
Well, I don't disagree. But what I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, what we're trying to project to the Racial Equity and Justice Task Force is is the department doing everything it can to promote diversity within the department? And yes, it may be illegal to use certain types of language and behavior in the firehouse because it would constitute hate speech or be discriminatory. It may be illegal, but there are workplaces where it is permissive. And I think that, the idea is that we do not have a permissive environment. And every chance that, if you are taking a risk to join a fire department as one of a protected class, you're the first, regardless of what definition that is. If you don't trust that the environment is going to be safe for you, you may be reluctant to take that position and take that job. So I think that it's worth promoting the fact that the department, the culture within the department has always been, and correct me if I'm wrong, it has always been a supportive, welcoming, open, compliant with the law. And I think that that's as important, because you often hear you can do everything right, but the undercurrent is, we don't really believe that. And you see it in fire departments over and over and over again, where, yes, at the management level, they're doing everything right, but they allow the employees to have bad behavior. It just came up in New York City Fire Department, where the behavior in the department is less than professional, even though it's illegal.
All the documents that we can create that says we're not going to do that is not going to stop people from doing it. It's a change that has to come from within.
But this is, for me, this is an important guidance document for the department, as well as a PR document. And I say PR in the most, positive way, that it sends a message, it's in writing, that this is a posture of the department, a philosophy of the department. And I think that it's, it's not to, lay down the law, because this document is not necessarily for that audience. This is to go to be submitted to the Racial Equity and Justice Task Force. And I think it's just a philosophical point to make about the environment in the department. Because if you don't say it, it could be a question. Is that a safe? Yeah, I heard rumors of fire departments where this stuff goes on. Well, I think that it's worth saying that it doesn't go on here.
Right, what's the problem with saying it twice, I guess, right? So, it is part of the labor law, and now we're stating it again here, so.
Yeah, I think what might be a better phrase there then, if that's the case, is we could replace it with something along the lines of that the department has a zero tolerance policy, which I believe we do, Chief, correct, in terms of violation of those laws.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that would be a better
I mean,
solution.
it may be as simple as
we
that.
talk about what our philosophy is. Or approach.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Would that address your concern? I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, for the commissioner that was speaking, and I couldn't hear, I apologize for the name of who it was that was speaking, but if a sentence was included to suggest that we are, that there's a zero tolerance policy for violations of applicable, federal, state, and local, regulations and statutes as it relates to those protected communities, would that address the concern that you had?
That works for me.
That works for me too.
Okay.
Me
The
too.
two commissioners that had somewhat questions on it, that works for us.
Perfect. Thank you.
So any other questions on the content that Alex already reviewed? Questions?
I see
hearing
none from
none.
the board here, sir. No, I see none.
Okay. I'd certainly like to see us adopt this as the commission's report with Alex listed as the primary author, but that it's a full endorsement of the commission, but I don't have the other sense of the other commissioners and how they feel about it.
So do we need to make the changes that were requested tonight to the document and send it back out before we can endorse?
Do we want to delay it that much, or do we want to have somebody work on language with the chief? And, I'm trying to think about how to do this.
Well, I think that there are only two changes. One was the dollar value for the test to change it from 200 to 165. And the second was the elimination of that one sentence and at the bottom of that paragraph, it refers to the data insufficient or unavailable, and replacing it with a sentence that basically says that the fire department has zero tolerance policy and complies with all state and local, state, and federal laws and regulations pertaining to protected class. As a sense of the meeting, I'm not sure that, delaying it another month for the exact language, if that is the tone and suggested content, is that sufficient for the commission to accept and vote on at this meeting?
That's what I was hoping.
Yep. So that can easily be accomplished, and we will send out a final copy once Alex and I get together to do that.
I'm prepared to vote on it.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan, I just have like a point of order type thing. There has not been a motion at all on this document yet. So
I'm about to make it.
Okay, but do we need a motion to change the document and then vote on the document as a whole?
I think we can vote, we can motion to, vote on the document as agreed, as amended, the amended document as agreed upon. Did I say that right? You gotta remember, it's 2 AM here.
We don't want to see 3 AM there.
No, I really don't. I'm just stumbling over my language. Bill Fitzpatrick, lawyer, drafter, can you bail me, please? Bail me out, please?
No, I think the chief has already set it forth in terms of the change we want to make.
Right.
In terms of a motion, I would just make a motion that the commission endorse this report as authored by Alex,
As amended,
as amended.
as amended.
Thank
The
you.
amendment doesn't have to be voted on, it's just an amendment in the discussion phase. Okay.
Now,
Right.
you said you would make a motion. Are you making a motion?
Not
Okay, the motion is on the floor now. We get a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Dorothea,
All those in favor?
Jude.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? It carries.
Good job.
okay,
No-
just
no-
to clarify, Jude, it was Bill Fitzpatrick that made the motion. You gotta remember, Jude cannot see who's doing this.
Thank
It was
you.
unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You want to keep going, Commissioner Brennan?
Yes, please take over.
Okay. I believe we are now on new business, item 13. I do not see any new business.
I just had a question. Just looking at the incident, it looks like we never crossed 860 except, in August of last year and September of this year, where we had over 1,000 incidents.
We need the mic moved or the commissioners at the table to speak up because it's not
they-
hearable on the line.
If you speak louder, it will pick you up.
It looks like our numbers just shot up, 1 month, last month and last August. It's quite a bit higher than any other month. Is there any theory as to why those months were so much higher than the other months?
Was there a
And
storm?
The storm, I think, and,
Is
The
that it?
storms.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And EMS calls are up as well, but, don't have the previous month. I know anecdotally that, we have seen a spike in EMS calls, but the storm was a likely cause of that.
Yes.
I have a question for the chief,
Yes.
going back, as long as we're on incident responses. Are we back to full response for EMS calls? Because I know for a while,
Yes.
we curtailed them during COVID a little bit. So we're back to full
Back to
response?
standard response for all, incident types.
Okay.
Oh, and the data that storm was September 1 and September 2, so that's why we had, I think, 300 on that day.
Okay, item 14, to hear, consider, and act upon any other business which shall properly come before the fire commission meeting. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Motion made, and
The
seconded, all
move
in
was
favor?
by Fitzpatrick, and who was the second?
I did Bert.
Burke. Fitzpatrick Burke.
Thank you, Dorothea.
I was gonna say
We
you
gonna
know,
vote?
Jude, but that's okay.
Do we have a vote, Shia?
We have a motion to adjourn.
You gotta vote the vote.
Oh, all in favor? Okay.
Aye.
We're
Okay.
on.
Wilson,
Good night,
aye.
How's
everybody.
things,
Good night.
how's things in, Italy?
Ciao.
Ciao.
Fabulous.
Good,
Fabulous.
good.